Thank you for joining us today here in the studio. We are in our mobile studio today, Cincinnati, Ohio, the office of the Human Resources Director at God's Bible School and College. Yes. Rebecca, thank you for hosting today.
No problem.
Today, we have a question. And what is our question this morning that we are contemplating?
Yeah, our question today is, how can we cultivate memorable moments?
Memorable moments. Well, maybe we should first of all define, what is a memorable moment? Do you have any memorable moments?
Oh, yeah. I have memorable days and weeks and trips, but in those times there are so many memorable moments. So we were just talking about, we call it the California trip.
Yes.
It was an epic trip.
It was epic.
It was like 3 weeks long or something like that.
It was a month, actually.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay, wow. Anyways, and we drove to California and back and spoke along the way. Anyways, it was just such a great trip. But there were little times during that trip, like just a few that popped to mind. I remember Mama brought a bag of gifts, like she had wrapped. I think it was one gift for every day. Maybe. I don't remember. Anyways, and we got to open a gift each day, and it was like another toy or another thing that we could do together along the journey. Anyways, so those little moments, like just opening the gift and seeing, it was all, I think, Dollar Tree items. Like they were all very small, but so fun. Another one would be, we ate lunch along the roadside. Like we would stop at a gas station or something and sit on the curb and make our sandwiches.
Yes.
And then eat them. And we got to stretch and run around. But yeah, now I look back and like those were our ways of saving money and, being good missionary family. But those were also some of the best times along the trip. Anyways.
Those were memorable for sure. And I think the big trip, it was in 2014. Mm-hmm. And it was an epic trip, like you said. There were lots of things along the way, including for me, the most memorable moment of that trip was swimming in the Pacific Ocean.
Yes.
And getting caught by the riptide.
Oh, yeah.
I was getting dragged out slowly. Yeah, I was losing the battle. And the memory of what in the world is Rochelle going to do if I don't make it out of here alive, having her stranded, thousands of miles from home. So there are memories that are not necessarily positive.
Right. That's so true.
That maybe, stick in our minds. People have those moments where, they remember exactly where they were and what they were doing on 9/11. Those are memorable moments, even though it's not necessarily a positive memory.
Right.
But I think, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel like that today there is so much happening that we are being inundated daily and bombarded by so many events that we're just overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And it seems like that because everything is important or noteworthy, that really nothing becomes noteworthy. I mean, there are things that are really important that are happening every day in our lives. But if you go through your Facebook feed and you see all the other things that are happening in the world or in other people's lives, it tends to diminish that. And I think we're living in a day where people are bombarded by so much that they fail to really take time to stop and recognize that what they're doing right now is memorable, or could be, if they weren't looking at their phone and scrolling somebody else's life.
Or even always thinking about, how can I get the best angle to make this look like it's so much fun, so that everybody looking at my Facebook feed will, think that my adventures are better. I kind of experienced that in Iceland this summer, and honestly, Alaska, when our family went too. There were times where I struggled with we were going to beautiful places, and so I wanted to get good pictures. But there were times that I missed the conversations that were happening between friends and between family and the fun things that we were doing in these beautiful places because I was so stressed about, I just want to get a good picture, or I want to make this a good memory. When if you just chill out and actually be present, it is a good memory. But we're so focused on the wrong things, and we define memories differently than people used to, for sure.
I think that's that's part of it, is that if you live life behind the lens, if there's this, I've got to capture this on camera so that I remember this memory, you see life differently. You see that moment differently than if you are just living in it. And I think that's the key, really, for me anyway, to truly memorable moments, is that the ones that I remember and that stick in my mind are those that I was fully present, those that I really took time to stop, to look, to listen, to be fully engaged. And it wasn't something that I'm trying to capture for a later moment. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And I think that memorable moments, especially for young families, like there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure that you feel like, I need to capture this. I need to remember this. I need to make this memory special. And it rarely lives up to your expectation. You think about every Christmas, you want it to be perfect. And especially if you're a parent of a young child, there's this sense of, I've only got so much time. I really want to make this special. But then Christmas morning comes and there's the presents, and about 10 minutes after they're unwrapped, the little guy's over here playing with the paper. It's not even about,
big toy that he got.
Yeah. And the meal that you had prepared, all the things that you were planning on doing that day, somehow finds a way to unravel. It just never ends up being quite what you hoped it would be. There's this sense of almost like hollowness. And I think some of it is that like there's this huge buildup and expectation that life just can't deliver. There's not the ability for everything to be just perfect.
Right.
I remember hearing the story of the young lady who had in her mind this picture for her wedding of riding in on her wedding dress, this white horse. And, what ended up happening was it ended up raining. And here she is, it's muddy. And, her slippers are soaking wet and she's in the mud. And she's like, this is not the way I dreamed it would be. And I think so much of life is like that. You've got this perfect Instagram photo of, the way you saw it.
Right.
And so you're trying to recreate somebody else's
And the truth
life
behind that is that it's either staged, to promote a photography business.
Yeah.
Or there are probably tension building behind that camera. Like all the happy faces. It's not perfect. Like none of those weddings that look picture perfect, there are things that go wrong.
Yeah.
You just, yeah. But that's the problem with the social media world, is you can make everything look perfect. So then looking on, it can feel like your personal experience is disappointing.
Right.
Because mine had problems and, when reality, everybody's does. How do you deal with those moments? Do you make them positive, memorable, or do you make them,
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that really in helping our family, as we've endeavored to try to, create memorable moments, sometimes it's been a positive thing, but it hasn't always.
Right.
And there's been plenty of times where it was challenging. But for me, creating positive memories comes when you're not trying to.
Yeah.
Many times that pressure, that feeling of, I've got to get this perfect, I've got to get this right, works against that. And so having intentionality, creating a structure, I'm thinking about the trip that we took to Virginia this past year. We were purposeful in the fact that we did not plan a bunch of stuff. And we did some really fun things, but we didn't cram that trip full. And there was friends having the Spivies over and having a wonderful Italian meal that one evening. It was beautiful. It was a lot of fun. Going e-biking.
Yes.
And being together as a family out in the beauty of nature. That was a blast. Hiking to the top of that mountain, whatever it was called, I can't remember. We did some really fun stuff.
Yeah.
But for me, some of those memories that week were just time sitting around the fire pit or time sitting out on the deck watching the sun come up. And this intentionality of making sure that we were not cramming it full.
And I will say that is a learned skill. Yeah, I remember when our family was a little bit younger, Daddy was a lot more spontaneous. You, you would drag us into things on the spur of the moment that none of us wanted to do, and, well, this is going to be fun. This is going to be a good thing. And it sometimes was, it sometimes wasn't. I feel like as we've gotten older and as you've gotten wiser, there's been balance in that. So I think the Virginia trip was a good balance. Because it wasn't packed full, and, you know, you weren't dragging us all over whatever. But also there were enough planned events. Or does that make sense for the structure? Because I'm thinking, even in our family, there are very opposite personalities.
Right.
Like people that love structure and, okay, what are we doing in 3 years tomorrow? Like, what are we doing? And then there are people that are like, it doesn't matter. The next hour is whatever. It takes all types.
It does. But I think the thing that I'm learning is that you can be more spontaneous when you have a plan. If you start with a plan.
And if you start with an empty plan. So I remember on that trip, we had lots of opportunities, but since we had already decided to be quiet for some of the time, then it was actually good. So the plan was to
leave
quiet.
Space. Yeah, to leave space. Yeah. And I think that's the part that I didn't used to understand. Yeah. The fear of missing out was what drove, we've got to do this, because if we don't, this opportunity is never going to come again. Yeah. And so let's take this and this and this. And I remember so many times coming up to events that I had said yes to 6 months before and being like, why in the world did I think this was a good idea? Rather than starting with a plan of saying, okay, if we're going to have a major trip, we are going to put a packing day at the beginning. So pro tip here, packing day and a recovery day, making sure that you put bookends on that major event, whatever it is, so that you're not going directly from one major thing into the next with no backstage time to where you have time to be able to actually regroup. I think, though, that when you have a plan that leaves space, there is an opportunity to be able to have memory-making moments where you're not feeling like you're under the gun. Right. Okay, let's get this picture, guys, quick, because we've got to move on to the next
We've got another scheduled event, A
great example of this, of what not to do. Last year, Samuel and I were flying out for South Africa the day after Christmas. And so Christmas Day last year was spent packing, finishing everything that we needed for an international trip, and trying to make sure that we were ready for that. I was not present because I was already on to the next thing. And I think that's the challenge many times, is that we're not living in the present because we are planning for the next thing. And if we can leave enough space in our lives to be able to be fully present where we are, and then have time to transition, to work on that next step before it's there, it will be much more likely that we can have a memorable moment.
That makes sense.
So, thinking back over your childhood, what's a memorable moment for you? Besides the California trip, is there anything that you can look back to and say, these are core memories for me? This is part of who has made me who I am today.
That's a bigger question than... So the first thing that came to mind, just like little memories, was all the games that Kaylin and I made up as kids. We were just talking about this the other day. This is another subject, so I'm not going to...
Oh, that's good.
But Miss V and Katie and I were sitting around talking about how kids have no imagination anymore. Like, it's so sad. You don't see kids running around making up, imaginary friends or whatever. They're playing with video games, things that they can actually see. Anyways, and some of the best memories that I made were with Kaylin and the Castellino boys running around playing, Spy Kids. We were the best spies out there.
You all had names.
We did. Yeah, we were
had
the
special
real
powers.
Deal. The real deal, for sure. That is such a good example, though, of, like, we were present. We had to be 100% in our game to make it fun. And that's why I remember so many details. I don't remember the games on the tablet that I learned, or the whatever, because your brain doesn't engage. So those definitely would be some of the memories. Yeah, picnics in the park, I always hated them. I was such a Eeyore when it came to outside events. because we have to sit on the ground. That is no fun. Let's get chairs. Anyways, I was such an Eeyore. But even those times, I did appreciate. Yeah. What were some of yours?
Well, I think for me, it was the yearly rhythms. There were some things that happened again and again and again. And because of that, each year kind of reinforced some of those. And so for me, Mode Camp has been one of those memorable moments.
Yes.
I started listening to a Charles Dickens novel every year at Mode Camp. And so, as I was going throughout the camp, listening to the book as I'm going through the 10 days of being there, or other things that were regular events in my life. Those are the things that, looking back, I realize I remember because it was reinforced.
Yeah.
This happened again and again and again. One of the fun things now is that, you've got memories popping up from the past. Just yesterday, there was a picture of you three girls, the oldest three, 17 years ago in the yard at the DeQuincy house. And to see you and Kaylin and Sarah there together. I mean, those moments that I didn't remember until that picture popped up. And yet it brings back so much.
And that, going back to the pictures, that is the beauty. So there's a balance there, because I bashed on pictures earlier, but without them, I mean, my brain wouldn't remember half the things that I would love to remember. So they are so good. So take time to be intentional about taking the pictures, but don't let that ruin the moment. Yeah,
I definitely think there is a balance, but not allowing that to drive the memory, making sure that you are present in that moment. But it is neat to have those.
That was adorable. Yeah.
I also think there's a link between gratitude and lasting memories. The things that I'm grateful for. There's the kind of humdrum of life. There's the average, this is what a day looks like, and get up and do it all over again. But then there are those things that, when I stop and think, that I'm truly grateful for, that really help me to look forward in life and see this is what really matters. This is what's important. And so, like, just this morning, we had a wonderful time coming over here yesterday and getting ready. I mean, just the anticipation, thinking about coming, and we're going to visit Becca, and we've got a party that we're going to here in a little bit, and all the different things that we're doing. It's not a huge, massive plan, but even those moments. And so this morning, got Dunkin' Donuts for the family, and people are going to be able to wake up and have donuts before brunch, and that'll be fun. Those are the sorts of things that, as we go forward in life, we see these are things that are important. These are things that matter. Family, taking time, being together. And we find things that work. We find things that we can make more of than what's there. So we can just go with the bare minimum and be like, let's just get through this. We got a party to go to. Let's drive over the morning of, and we'll go to the party, and we'll do this, and we'll drive back home. Yeah, you could do that. But you could also come over the night before and make it more than that. And so I think being intentional about how can we find those things that we're doing and then make them more special, make them more memorable.
That's interesting. Yeah.
And being grateful, I think, helps point you in the direction
of what actually is important.
Yes.
Yeah.
The direction that you need to go.
Yeah. I think that can also help lead your plans. So I think about, we call ourselves the Palantieri, but some of my friends from Mode Camp, we have been super intentional over the last few years about getting together. So last year, summer, we did a trip to Iceland. Every Christmas for the past 2 or 3, we get together on New Year's, and we do the most random things. But, like, we made up a game last year. The year before, we did a scavenger hunt all over Salem. Just, like, off the cuff. We hadn't planned anything random. But because we were intentional about, okay, we're just going to be together. Like, this is some of the only time, because we're all so busy, that we can actually get together, we're going to do it. And because that's important to us, then it becomes like, it turns into a memory just naturally, because it matters to us. And yeah, that's super interesting.
I think another thing too is that ordinary days can become extraordinary if you're actually paying attention. This past week, it's beginning in November, but it's been beautiful outside. And so I have gone out and eaten my lunch, as I am wont to do, sitting outside on the deck there at work, and just taking time to feel the sun on my face, to smell the breeze, to breathe deeply, to enjoy the food that I'm eating, and to be present in the moment. Again, it's an ordinary moment, just eating lunch. And yet, it is so life-giving to actually use the 5 senses that God's given us and to just be in that moment.
Yeah.
And I think so many times it's like, okay, I got to hurry, eat my lunch, get on to the next thing. Yeah. This is just another part of life. Box checked, move on. But we can really make moments extraordinary by just paying attention. It's one of the things that makes me so sad when I go to a restaurant and I see a family sitting there and
everybody's on their phone.
Everybody's on their device. Yeah. They're there, but nobody's present.
Yeah.
And so being intentional about putting down devices, being fully present in the moment, and really giving attention can really take ordinary moments and make them extraordinary. So what would you say to somebody that is right now, scrolling way too much social media? They're living their life and constantly depressed, thinking, I went to the Children's Museum with my kids yesterday, but this other family went to Tahiti. My life is so depressing. It's so horrible. Poor me. What would you say to that person about making memories and enjoying the life that they have?
Yeah. I don't know. I think I would just ask them a bunch of questions. Like, what did you think your life was going to look like at this stage? Why is it not that? What is so unrealistic about those expectations? I think many times, so for instance, when people, obviously I don't have a young family, but some of my expectations are potentially unrealistic. But when I actually get into those moments, thinking about what is making them unrealistic, is it just me? Am I not, putting enough work in? So if I put down my phone, could I actually make memories like I always dreamed of doing? Just things like that, like trying to get them to think about what do they want and what are they going to regret in 20 years. Not everybody's going to recognize it, but because I don't think social media is wrong. I don't think whatever is wrong, devices or whatever. But if it's taking over what you really want, deep down, not just the surface level, this is fun, this is easy, this is,
If you're choosing that over choosing this memorable moment.
Like, let your real desire, even if it's hard, resurface and figure out, what do you really want, or what are you going to really want in 20 years? And then start working towards that. It's
one of the things I've challenged the young people that are part of NDP leadership to do, giving them a book.
Yeah.
And
it's
just
so hard.
Write down 50 things that you want to do between now and the time that you leave this earth. You may think, I could do that. That would be easy. But I challenge you to do it. Yeah. Write down what you really want to do.
Yeah.
And begin moving in that direction. Because beyond, the first 10 things, you could write down 10 things you want to do. But beyond that, it's really tough to get in touch with what do you really want. And that's step one. And then, how do you get there? Same way you eat an elephant, one bite at a time. So I think that recognizing what it is that we really want and beginning to make choices, daily choices, that will distill our dreams into daily actions. What are those daily actions that are actually going to move me in that direction? Can help us to pursue those memorable moments. Well, Becca, thank you for taking time today. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And for gleaning and gathering. God bless.